Hi, welcome back to another tier list video, and today we are ranking Classic Doctor Who Season 22 from 1985. So this season is the 6th Doctor and Peri all the way through, nice and simple, and all of them are two-parters that were 45 minutes long each, rather than 4-parters of 25 minutes. Except for one serial, the Two Doctors, which was 3 parts of 45 minutes each. So, bit of a weird change they made to Doctor Who then. With New Who, I get it, because it was a completely different time and there'd been a long wait between Classic Who and New Who. But with Classic Who, jumping from one season to the next and having a different format was a bit weird. But let's see how the episodes did. First up is Attack of the Cybermen. So this one got a 3. And like with the Daleks, I'm kind of over the Cybermen by this point. Give me a decent story or don't give me a Cyberman story, you know? This one, I think, overall the concept was quite interesting. Effectively, the Cybermen wanted to retcon the events of the 10th planet. And I think that was a really interesting concept. I just think it was executed poorly. As I mentioned, these are now 45-minute episodes in 2 parts, and the biggest issue I found during this serial was that they were still written as if they were 25-minute episodes. Nothing much happens in the first episode, and for 45 minutes of not much happening, that's a problem. This is the issue with having parts and serialised stories. If it can't be told with a natural cliffhanger, if you need nothing to happen until something happens and then it's the next episode, what's the point? That's my issue. There's a fine line between being able to do a serialised story well and just nothing happening until the end of the first episode. However, Colin Baker, the 6th Doctor, does feel much more doctory in this one. There were references to past companions like Susan and Tegan, which I quite liked. And it shows from what Peri says about that he is still a bit out of sorts, or he has been at least before this serial. But the Doctor's part with the fake police officer and his bits of banter with Peri afterwards really feel much more doctory, and I kind of wish that this was his first episode because this felt much more like a Doctor Who story and it made me like the 6th Doctor much more. Sure, he was still a bit prickly at times, but what Doctor isn't, let's be real. If you took out the Twin Dilemma completely and this was the first 6th Doctor episode, I think people would have warmed to him much quicker. And this is proof that the writing does just let him down, because when he's written like the Doctor, he is really good. And it's not fair on Colin Baker that the 6th Doctor is always ridiculed for being a snarky, mean Doctor, when that's just not the case. He's just the Doctor. And the writing in his era lets him down a lot of the time. But this episode, I think, really showed off the doctoriness of the 6th Doctor. I've got to say though that the Cybermen in this story having human slaves doesn't make much sense to me, because the whole point of Cybermen is that human bodies are weak. So why would the Cybermen get the humans to do the slave work? With Daleks it makes sense because Daleks don't really have limbs. Well, outside of the casing they don't have limbs. Cybermen have limbs. Usable working robotic limbs. They can do all the work themselves and it wouldn't be an issue for them or any effort. Them having human slaves doesn't make sense to me. Having said that, the cybernetics on some of the human slaves that were partially converted, I guess, looked really cool, and I wish that was explored more in a Cyberman episode at some point, because it reminds me of the audio drama Spare Parts with the 5th Doctor and Nyssa. The world that they go to originally has people slowly building themselves up with small cybernetic enhancements and changes that are cybernetic, rather than full-on Cyberman straight away. This serial also has that aspect where they are slowly cybernetically enhanced, not fully converted, and I think that's a really interesting concept that you can run with the Cybermen. The Series 10 finale in New Who, banging season, that really does well to show the body horror aspects of the Cybermen, and it does explain why they had to exist, but there are limitations with it. So the cybernetic humans did look pretty good. The Cryons, however, looked bloody ridiculous, and I can't take any of them seriously. The actors were giving it their all, but I'm sorry, it was bloody awful. The look of them was awful. What is that? Anyway, all in all, I think that it was a really good concept, poor execution. It was let down by the execution of it, so I'm going to put it into Wibbly Wobbly. It could have been something really good, but it just wasn't, so yeah. And the MVP for the serial is Flast. Or Flast. Next up is Vengeance on Varos. Now I'm pretty sure this is one of those ones that people love and I don't. I gave it a 4, but only just. The issue with the 2-parters as well is that I can't average out scores easier. It's always going to be a 0.5 or an exact, so yeah, I can't really do nice averages with these ones. It's a bit harder. So I watched this serial with the Tales of the TARDIS version on the second time round because I wanted to see all the little mini clips at the beginning and ends of all these Tales of the TARDIS episodes. So for every Tales of the TARDIS episode, I've been rewatching it via that one rather than with the full original version, because I have already seen the full versions anyway. And there's not really that much cut out of these ones. But I've got to say, in the episode Time Crash, the little mini-sode, comic relief or children need mini-sode in New Who, the 5th Doctor crashes his TARDIS into the 10th Doctor's TARDIS, and they have a little conversation about the Master and his beard. And how dare the 5th Doctor make fun of the Master's beard when the 6th Doctor in Tales of the TARDIS has the same fucking beard? What is this? Hypocrite. Anyway, back to the in-universe stuff. It takes a full half an hour for the Doctor and Peri to actually get to Varos. Why? Why did it take them that long to get there? The acid bath moment that a lot of people have issues with the 6th Doctor, like with the strangling of Peri in the last season, they used the acid bath moment to show that the 6th Doctor's a bad guy. No. I'm an apologist for this moment, I'm sorry. What else was the Doctor supposed to do, really? They were going to put him into the acid. One of the 2 people who was going to put him in fell in on his own. The other guy, yes, the Doctor pushed him in, but only because he was trying to get the Doctor in the acid again. The Doctor was fighting him off and he accidentally got pushed in. I'm not buying this whole the 6th Doctor is evil malarkey. Ridiculous. The Doctor didn't do anything wrong. Not in that moment. Other than that, I like the random couple who are watching everything play out throughout the serial. I kept getting confused as to who they are and why they're appearing, but I think it works nicely as a little framing device, and it shows the changing attitudes of the population of Varos over time while this is happening, because they're watching all this play out and they're sort of deciding that they're rooting for the Doctor and Peri and the people that they're meeting rather than the governors and all these people. So I quite like that. Also, poor Peri. Just poor Peri again. Anyway, I think I'm going to put this one into upgrade in progress. I don't love this one as much as other people do, but there are aspects of this one that I do appreciate, and I enjoyed it enough, so I think upgrade in progress is a decent tier for this one. And the MVP for the serial is Jondar. Next up is The Mark of the Rani. Okay, this one's going to be real quick. This got a 5, and I loved it. Everything about it. The Rani's a fantastic new character to add. You know that I love seeing new Time Lords popping up and learning more about the lore of Gallifrey and the Doctor's past and all of this. I like the fact that we have another character from the Doctor's past, especially with the fact that she's not out to get the Doctor. He just gets in her way and she's like, go away. That's it. And her banter with the Master, fantastic. Oh yes, the Master's in this episode. Obviously that means I love it. Although the Master may have potentially killed a dog in this one, and that worries me that I now have to hate on the Master and I can't love him anymore. But it was off screen, so it doesn't matter, right? Can we just pretend that that didn't happen because it was off screen? Or do I actually have to take him off of my favourite character list? Because you don't kill the dog. There are two things that push you over the edge of the hierarchy of evil into the top tier, and one of them is killing dogs. Obviously the Master wouldn't do the other thing because that is not suitable for a children's TV show, although the series 3 finale did make references to that, so that one does worry me quite a bit. But in this one he may have potentially killed a dog, and that worries me for the moment. But with regards to the Master and the Rani, I loved their banter together, and I loved the fact that the Rani the whole time was just so done with the Master. It's literally like the big sister and her baby brother has come to visit for the holidays and she's like, oh my god, go away. Just leave me alone. Let me do what I need to do and you can just leave me alone. Like, it genuinely just feels like she just has to put up with him, and it's really quite fun. I do love that. I also love the Rani's TARDIS. That design is really cute. The Master's TARDIS, anytime we see that, is so similar to the Doctor's. It's basically just the Doctor of the Time's TARDIS painted black, whereas the Rani had a much more unique design to hers, and I really liked it. That was really nice as a TARDIS design, and it felt unique to her. It felt like her TARDIS, so I did like that. Anyway, overall, I liked this one quite a lot, and I'm going to put it into Fantastic. I can't put it into Uyu because there is that chance that the Master did kill a dog, so it can't go into Uyu. However, I did really enjoy this one. It was a great introduction to Rani. It was a really fun story. The 6th Doctor and Peri were fine in it. I have no complaints about them in this. Peri's outfit was quite fun. And yeah, the Rani and the Master had the bants and we loved it. So it's going into Fantastic. There is no MVP for this serial because I couldn't pick someone out that I cared enough about. Most of the story was happening with the Doctor, Peri, the Rani and the Master. There wasn't much room for the secondary characters to shine, so I didn't have anyone I picked out for this one above anyone else, so there is no MVP for this serial. Next up is The Two Doctors. So this serial is the three-parter and brought back the second Doctor and Jamie. Now, I have previously said in another video that this serial has been used as possible proof that the second Doctor had other adventures after the War Games because he's older and he's got greyer hair in this serial than he did in his other serials where he had his pre-grey hair. However, the start of this serial does have the Doctor talking to Jamie about how Victoria is on a holiday that they've just dropped her off for. So it actually very clearly sets that time in the Doctor and Jamie's life to when they're travelling with Victoria. So it doesn't count, I'm afraid, which is a shame because otherwise it would have worked perfectly. Having said that, the Doctor did mention about the Time Lords tracking the TARDIS, which surely wouldn't have happened before the War Games because they didn't find the Doctor until the War Games when he contacted them. So there's still hope. Although I do have to say that this serial starting with the second Doctor and Jamie would have made the kids at the time hella confused. A lot of them wouldn't necessarily have watched the second Doctor era by this point. This is 1985. The second Doctor era was in the 60s. Maybe there were adults who were in their 30s by this point who had watched it in the 60s who were like, oh, it's Doctor 2 and Jamie, we love to see it. But all the kids would have been hella confused. They'd have had no clue who this guy was. About the story though, I do like that it's a nice timey-wimey story, and the fact that the Sixth Doctor and Peri meet Jamie, everything's sort of going on in a really timey-wimey nonsense kind of way. I do like that. I think that works quite nicely for a story. The space station set I do want to give a shout out to because that looked quite pretty, and I think, yeah, that was a good set. The mystery goes quite hard as well with the Doctor and Peri turning up in the future of the space station and not knowing what's going on because everyone's missing and everything's happened already, and then Jamie has to help them unravel the mystery. I do like that as well, that's a really good one. Speaking of Jamie, he's so real in this. Quietly telling Peri as an aside that he thinks her Doctor is worse than his one. I love it. I miss Jamie, okay? I miss Jamie and I miss Zoe, I miss Leela, I miss all my favourite ones. I miss all my faves. And of course, Jamie, being the amazing guy he is, was immediately going to go save Peri from the creepy foodie. He didn't, obviously, but he was immediately going to. He had no hesitation. He was like, I'm going to go save this girl. Speaking of the creepy foodie, my main issue with this serial is that I feel like that was the main plot. It wasn't. Him wanting to eat everyone was a subplot, but it felt like the main plot of the episode. I keep forgetting there are Sontarans in it. I didn't remember from the first time round, and the only reason I remember now is because I'm looking at a picture of a Sontaran on my screen. That is the only reason I remember now. That is how much it feels like a subplot. It feels like a nothing plot. The creepy foodie thing feels like the main plot. Patrick Troughton, as the second Doctor, does an amazing job at being creepy foodie number 2 though. Very, very good. Can't really fault his performance in any way, really, can you? Other than all of that, I do love the fact that when you have a multi-Doctor episode, there are moments when the Doctor will just sort of talk to himself without saying anything, when they formulate the same plan and they're just like, would it work, do you think? Blah, blah, blah. And it's just those little moments that I think, yes, they're the same person. I love it. That worked really well in this serial as well. I do appreciate when those moments happen in multi-Doctor stories. If I haven't said already, this story got a 4. And as for placing it in the tier list, I do think this is probably the weakest of the multi-Doctor stories. And considering the subplot felt more like the main plot and vice versa, I think I'm going to put it into upgrade in progress. There were good points about it, definitely, but it just wasn't as good as it could be, you know? So, upgrade in progress. And the MVP for the serial is Anita. Next up is Timelash. This serial also got a 4, and I don't have many notes on this one, so this one might be quicker to get through. I thought it was a good story and an enjoyable serial. Get that out of the way, I thought it was a good, enjoyable serial. Again, a little bit of fun for the opera-y, can't deny it. Peri always gets in those situations, don't know why. Except this time the Phantom wanted to disfigure her so that she would be like him. Speaking of that though, the prosthetics and the Borad looked so good. I love practical effects, and this is why. Classic Who had a shoestring budget and they made that. I think it looks really good, I really do. I mean it genuinely, I do think the Borad looked really good. It looked realistic enough to me, and that's because it was practical. As I've mentioned, the Borad wanted to change Peri's appearance, and that does mean that it's the second serial in this very season where the villain wanted to change Peri's appearance drastically, and the second in Peri's tenure where the villain wants to keep her. Christine. My only other note is that Herbert is an absolute sweetie. So, where should we place this on the tier list? I know I didn't have many notes on this one, but I kind of feel like putting it into Fantastic. And I'm going to do it. It was an enjoyable serial. I did like it. It was a full 4. And I think the story was interesting. So yeah, it's in Fantastic. And the MVP for the serial is Katsun Makriff. And the last serial for the season is Revelation of the Daleks. Just to point out, because I always will, my favourite Dalek designers in this one. Just saying. What's barely in this one though is the Doctor and Peri. Again, they're barely in episode 1. It suffers from the same issue as the Attack of the Cybermen at the beginning of the season. They're barely in episode 1. They don't do anything. Nothing happens for them in this serial. Everything happens in the second episode for Doctor and Peri. Just a tiny little thing that's not really, doesn't mean anything. The Doctor wears a cat pin in every episode, and the one for this serial is Marie from the Aristocats. I just thought that was cute. The glass Dalek, we should talk about it. The glass Dalek design with the human mutating inside is fucking terrifying. It's brilliant. It's a really great way of showing human mutating into Dalek, because they have done that in Doctor Who several times now. In our world, I mean. Obviously Clara in Series 7 in New Who. This one happened. All of the humans in Series 1, at the end of them, were mutated into Daleks. There have been several other human Dalek hybrid type things as well. It happens a lot with humans and Daleks, which makes you wonder why they talk about Khaled purity with Daleks, if they're not even Khaleds anymore. But the way they showed it in this serial with the glass Dalek was brilliant. Looked terrifying, and it was brilliant. Again, prosthetics. I really like the DJ. I really liked him. He was good. And I don't like the Doctor in this one though, because he makes Peri go with the creepy guy. No, we don't approve of that. The 5th Doctor protected Peri against the creepy guy in the last season. This Doctor tells her to go with the creepy guy. We don't approve of that, Doctor. One thing to mention that really creeped me out while watching the episode once this was announced. So this is supposed to be some sort of resting place for the dead, and Davros turned all the human dead into food, making all of the other people who are eating this food unsuspecting cannibals. Yuck. Yeah, that really did, that freaked me out. I can't deny it. So in the end, to combat that food shortage that Davros was fixing with the human cannibal thing, the Doctor comes up with this idea for a plant protein. And Peri is a budding botanist. Why was she not the one to come up with that idea? Give her that bit. Give Peri the moment to shine in that episode. The whole of Peri's tenure, she doesn't really do much apart from whine and get kidnapped and scream and stuff. This is why I'm not so keen on Peri as a character, because she doesn't do anything. This serial could have given her that chance to shine with her being the one to come up with the plant protein idea. But instead, the Doctor did it, which was short in character for him to come up with something like that, but Peri's a botanist. Give her the chance, you know? Last thing to say is that the assassin duo who die an honourable death, love them. Really fucking sweet. The one guy holding on and cradling his dead colleague while he sacrifices himself to save everybody else from the Daleks. I really liked that. That was so sweet. Placing this serial though, I think I'm gonna put it... where do I want to put it? Okay, because it was basically just the one episode, which is the second episode, I'm gonna put it into upgrade in progress. Nothing much happens in the first episode. That one was boring to me. The second episode is where everything happened. So yeah, I'm going to put it in upgrade in progress because it was good, but it could easily have been condensed and I would have liked it a lot more. There are 2 MVPs for this serial. The first of which is Arthur Stengos and the second is Derek Johnson. But that is the whole season tier listed, and I've got to say it is definitely looking better than I anticipated it would. Sometimes I feel like I'm too generous on some seasons and too harsh on others. I don't know, I just do what I feel in the moment, let's be real. Season stats. The most common score for the season was a 4 and the season average was a 3.69. The quote of the season comes from Vengeance on Varos, and if I'm remembering correctly, it comes from near the end of the serial, and it is the governor talking to the people of Varos who will have to vote whether to keep him as governor or murder him immediately. Very weird political system they have. So he's given his little speech about what he wants for Varos, and then he says, "And that, fellow citizens of Varos, is my vowed intention. For without justice and peace and tolerance, we have no future." This is the sort of quote that makes me think, when people say, oh, Doctor Who's gone woke, it was always bloody woke. Look at that. Peace, tolerance, justice. Doctor Who has always been wide awake, and it's a shame that a lot of new fans aren't. But that is it. That is season 22 completely tier listed. What did you think of the season? Do you think that The Two Doctors is the best multi-doctor story? Do you think I should strike the Master completely off of my favourite fictional character list because he may have potentially killed a dog in The Mark of the Rani? Let me know your thoughts on this season in the comments below, and I will see you next time for the trial of a Time Lord in season 23.